Well, hello and welcome to this how-to video on Advanced Virtual Reality Framework on Unreal Engine. And we're going to be talking about custom widgets. And if you don't know Advanced Virtual Reality Framework, or AVRF, it's an incredible framework for programming applications in virtual reality and non-virtual reality in Unreal Engine. As a matter of fact, everything you see here comes right out of the box in AVRF, except of course for the training itself. So let's start. In AVRF, custom widgets are something you're probably going to be making. The widgets themselves in AVRF are extremely powerful. Let's take a look at an example. This here is one of the default widgets, demo widgets that AVRF provides. It's right out of the box. It shows these things. You've got a bunch of buttons here and information inside the widget. So you can point at the widget and of course trigger things using the pointer, or if you prefer, of course, use your hand to change things. So this in AVRF is something you really want to take advantage of. Now, you probably don't want that in your application or game. You want very much customized widgets. But to customize a widget, we want to build our own thing probably from scratch. So I'll show you how to do that, and it's extremely easy to do once, of course, you know how to do it. So let's take this, move this away. And now we'll make a widget that has a button that you can point at and you can click. And if you click it, something happens. Okay? It's rather straightforward. So let's see how that works. And let's move on to a screen share of how to make that in Blueprints. Alright, so here we are in Unreal Engine. This is version 4.24. 4.25 wouldn't matter. It's pretty much the same thing. In any case, AVRF works perfectly fine in both versions of Unreal. So the first thing we're going to do is create the initial widget. And the initial widget is the widget that's going to encompass all other widgets that you're going to have inside your little user interface. So the way to do this is we create a new blueprint with a subclass of widget initial. This is the core of the system. So let's call it widget initial test. And we open it. I'm going to set it to be 500 by 500. There we go. And now we're going to fill it. So we add a canvas panel, and let's add a button. And AVRF has a ton of buttons. We're going to be using the widget button click normal medium, which is, as the name says, a clickable button with text in it, with everything that you need to make it look good, as we saw in earlier in the how-to video. And the other thing that we're going to do is put some text in there, which is just an example that we're going to change the text. We're going to change the content of the text based on the button. And you could put all sorts of things in there inside the widget. I mean, that's how you're going to build your user interface. So this is oh, one more thing is the text block. We put it as a variable so that we can modify it later. the next thing that we're going to do, and that's the most important thing, and that people will forget to do. And if you forget to do that, the buttons do not work. They appear, but they do not work the way AVRF does it with highlights and all sorts of other things, clicks, etc., etc. So what you need to do is to override get button containable widgets. And this function actually tells the system which buttons are inside your widget system. So what you need to do is to put all the buttons that you're going to be using inside this function and return those. So we start with the parent, and we've got a widget array, and we're simply going to add to this widget array our button. That's it. Now don't forget to map this back to the return node so that it returns the correct array with the button in there. So we're done with this, and now the only thing that's left to do is some standard determining what to do when the button is pressed. So you select the button, standard on real stuff, and you create this event. And you put, get your text block, and you set the text to be whatever you want it to be. In this case, let's say that it works. And we're done. Now, this widget is done. The next thing we're going to do is simply create a new actor for putting the widget inside our map. So we call it BP actor test. And here, inside that BP actor test, we are going to add a widget component. Oops, sorry. A comp widget is widget component from AVRF. And in the details, you have to set the widget class to our widget that we created, which is called the widget initial test. And you see it right there. We set the user's recursive widget selection, and you're essentially done right there. So now we go back to the map, we add this guy, it's right here, and then we can play. So here we're going to be playing with where is our widget? Right here. As you can see, this is our widget. This is the button. It's got highlights, it's got everything, and this is the text block that we've got. Once we click on it, it works. You can click, etc., etc. And don't forget, because this button is a standard AVRF button, you can have it in all languages, and you basically are getting all the features that AVRF has for its widgets at a top widget level, and it allows you to modify everything you want to modify in your user interface. Okay, here we are back in the demo room, and so we did create this button earlier, similar one at least, and everything works. So in summary, things are relatively simple. In order to build your own widget interface in AVRF that you fully control, what you need to do is to create a child of widget initial, design all your widgets inside it and make your user interface, put all the buttons that you want to put, and then make sure that you override get button containable widgets, and this function needs to return all the buttons that you created inside your widget interface, inside your child here. Second, once you've done with this widget, you create an actor inside your map, you add a comp widget component, and you set recursive and set the widget class to your widget initial child. And finally, you set the material. If you want to widget 3D material, you can do whatever you want. You're basically set, and you can enjoy all the features of AVRF widgets with your own widgets. But again, to recap, do not forget to do this. And again, in case you're wondering, all of this is done in AVRF by default. I didn't create any of this stuff. I just created the how-to. Enjoy.